How's it going, folks? This is Drew, better known as SilentMode, artist and LEGO enthusiast, and what you're looking at right now is my new studio hosted by SET Woolwich over in East London. I get to make this place up in my own image. It's a freshly built studio with new walls, etc. And I'm excited about this because it really is my own space, rented of course. Now, I don't know how long I'm going to have this place for, but while I'm here, I wanted to make it the best I could make it. Now, you can tell rather, that this is my first foray into DIY at this scale, because I genuinely thought that one little bucket of paint was going to cover all the walls. And for the first few moments, I'm using a paint pad. I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible so I can get to creating. You'll see eventually that I switched to using paint rollers, which completes the job. And then I ended up painting the walls about 3 or 4 times just to get the level of color that I wanted. And I actually quite enjoyed it, because while I was painting the walls, I was thinking of all the different possibilities and just getting lost in doing something other than sitting at a computer all day or worrying about whether my next creation was going to do anything good. But the reason I'm making this video is because it's a 1-year anniversary of No Longer an AFOL, which is a video that I made on the 13th of December 2020. Long story short is that I disassociated with the term AFOL and pretty much disassociated with the LEGO community, because there are a lot of things going on that I don't like, that I disagree with. But unfortunately, many of the people in the community think that things are funny. Things such as stealing people's ideas and misattribution. Things such as only wanting to promote certain people, thinking that only certain people deserve the spotlight. Things such as me not being in one of the protected groups, that is being white, female or LGBT. Now that's debatable, but that's what I've seen in recent years. There are plenty of things that I disagreed with, so by that logic, I couldn't call myself an AFOL and I couldn't agree with being classed as one. So I had to distinguish myself to make sure that people knew that I don't agree with those things. And one way I knew that I was making the right decision was that after I posted the video, I was confronted by some of those people who I had issues with, and rather than address any of the points that I made in the video, such as the stealing of ideas, etc., they just wanted to laugh and treat the whole thing as a joke. Until this day, nobody has actually refuted any of my points. There have been some people who have apologized for how I've been treated, and I appreciate those people, but nobody's come forward and said that anything I said was a lie. Nobody's come forward and acknowledged that I went through some of the things I went through. So that tells me that what I said was valid, at least to a point, and that there really are things going on within the LEGO community that I disagree with. The last year or so has been a net loss, I have to admit. There have been people who've come and gone. My finances, my social life has suffered as well. On a positive note, though, I do believe that there's nothing that has left, there's nothing that's disappeared that has to be there or had to be there. And so I don't think I've really lost anything, although the losses are apparent. It's all making way for new things in the future. That's the way I choose to look at it. Such as having this studio, I've already started creating things. I've already started putting things into action. And I've been working on my websites. I've been working on the new SilentMode TV, as well as continuing work on SwapFig. It's all hard work though. I'm the only person working on them, and everything will get done eventually. It's just taking a lot more time. I've had to balance everything with the studio, with my day job and other endeavors as well. It has been overwhelming at times, but I have to remind myself that I'm the only person on this journey and nobody is going to help. I'm not sure if anybody can help, to be honest. I really enjoyed putting this studio together. I really got to thinking about what I really needed in a studio. I particularly picked this size studio. It was a big space. It had plenty of lights coming from the windows. And I like the idea of having a long, narrow space. In hindsight, it would have been nice to have a slightly wider space, but I stuck by my choice, even though there were other units available. because by the time I realized there were other units available, I'd already committed. One thing that was important was to divide this studio up into discrete areas. There's one clean area where I do my coding and other things, a dirty area for silicone molding, resin casting, etc., and an area for doing photography. So when I'm filming my silent mock videos, for example, somewhere I can focus on photography there. That bit was rather slow to develop because I had to figure out what kind of lighting I wanted, what kind of backing I wanted, etc. And making use of the furniture I had, I did have to obtain some more furniture. Chest of drawers, I got a couple of those at the recommendation of someone, and I got a nice cabinet for 3D printing materials and things. A few visits to IKEA were necessary as well, and IKEA proved to be very useful. One thing I took away from the previous studio was printing out a plan of the room and thinking about where I was going to put all the different bits of furniture, bearing in mind that I wanted to divide the place up into different sections. So I had to think about where the corner desk was a given, it had to go in the corner. But where was I going to put the sets of white shelves, the bookshelves, the tables, etc.? Eventually, I decided that I was going to keep the area around the door clear, and I could make space for a photography area behind the door and put the locker there as well. It was just a case of deciding where the bookshelves and things were going to go as a result, and bearing in mind that there was going to be more furniture, such as the chests of drawers that I eventually obtained. And it was all based on wanting to make as much use of the space as possible, wanting to store as much as possible, but still having the freedom of movement. Yeah, there are a number of things I disagree with the LEGO community in general with. My biggest thing was the idea that it's okay to steal, it's okay to leak information, and particularly misattribution. That was the one biggest bugbear I had. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the Musketeers project that was in progress since 2015, I want to say. People liked it, and then LEGO came out with the Brickheads theme, and all of a sudden, my theme wasn't respected as Musketeers, but it was referred to as Brickheads. I think people did that just to get on my nerves, which shows the lack of respect some people had. But just the general idea that I put out that video, the No Longer an AFOL video, and some people thought it was funny. I don't respect that at all, and it's even more reason why I disassociate from some of these people at least. I don't think that people's cries for help, if you want to call it that, are funny. I think things should be taken seriously. Certainly don't stop people getting the help they need or want. And I think it's important that everybody's listened to. If you're going to call yourself a community, everybody should have a place in that community. One last point I want to make is that for all the claims of LEGO being about creativity, imagination, playfulness, etc., and these are really important things that are values that I hold dear. If these things were so valuable, then the phrase, "what's it meant to be?" wouldn't be a thing. I think back to a particular point, and this was at the Great Western Brick Show back in 2017, I think it was. This was the year before I semi-retired. There was this kid who stood in front of my table. I had a lot of the Musketeers on display, and they said out loudly, "I don't get it." And I thought this was a really odd thing for a kid to say, but it could be down to bad parenting for one. And if I didn't know any better, if I was really paranoid, I would have said somebody put that kid up to it. They may have even paid him, but it could just be them. It could be somebody being an asshole, etc. I have no idea. I guess the real question that was raised as a result of No Longer an AFOL was, do I really want to stay part of this hobby? Because I had flirted with the idea of changing directions and doing something else entirely, going away from LEGO and perhaps focusing heavily on work as I did in the past, giving up my LEGO collection, giving up the idea of creating anything, living in fear of people stealing my ideas again. And ultimately, I realized that I don't have to associate with the people. I don't even have to respect a lot of the people within this space. I can still play with Lego, I can still do things with Lego, and I could possibly make a name for myself. I don't really need them. I would like to have people's support, but I don't need them. I'm not really dependent on them. And it led to the question of why I do things, why I decided to go down the route of building Lego models, building my own Lego models, doing the resin casting, silicone molding and 3D printing, etc. Was I doing it for people's approval? Was I doing it for attention? Or was I doing it because that's the kind of thing I like to do? And I think back to when I first started out, I was thinking of positioning myself as an adult who liked to play with Lego. So I wasn't necessarily child friendly. I don't buy into privileged politics of any kind. I was an adult who liked playing with Lego and sometimes dealt with adult themes, but this was the kind of stuff that I like to do and the kind of stuff I'm able to do now that I have the skills, I have the means, etc. to do these things. One very major thing I discovered between the time of the last video and this one is that I have been very apprehensive about promoting myself. I don't know whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's me being afraid for some reason. But I've had a really hard time promoting myself. I've had a really hard time touting my abilities, etc. I have found myself shrinking into the background for various reasons. But if I'm going to be an independent artist and a Lego enthusiast, I have to be able to promote myself because, let's face it, nobody else is going to promote me. I have been featured in the New Elementary once, and I have been in the late Bricks and Bricks Culture magazines. I guarantee though you'll never find any of my models on any of these other websites. You won't see them on, well, I'm not going to name them, and I never will as far as I'm aware. So I have to be, I don't want to say aggressive, but I have to be more assertive about promoting myself. So just about anybody I meet at these events, I'm going to have to say, you know what, I'm an artist, I'm a Lego enthusiast, I build models, I do Lego inspired designs, etc. And I got my business cards ready, I got some printed bricks, I've got some minifigures of people I particularly like. But the idea is that if it's really true that people are pretending I don't exist and they're trying to prevent people knowing that I exist, then I have to be rather assertive in assuring that people know that I exist, which is going to be incredibly important because who knows where that's going to take me as an artist and Lego enthusiast. So let's talk about what's ahead. The focus clearly has to be on promoting myself because I can't expect anybody else to do it, and I wholeheartedly believe that nobody else is going to promote me. I think they'll always want to promote somebody ahead of me. So I'm going to have to be my own biggest cheerleader, and there's nothing wrong with that. Which means that I also have to have something to show as well, hence why I've been focused on YouTube content as well as working on my website. I am going to continue running Swapfig. I'm going to continue running Pabcrawler. Pabcrawler has been rather successful actually, and despite what some people have criticized it over, despite what some people say about the formats, I think it works. I think it's helpful. I actually like doing it because it's a valuable contribution and one that very few people are actually willing to do, but I find it very simple. I'd also like to make bigger contributions and even do some charity work, as in raising money for charity, because one thing I have noticed, and it's a sticking point for me, there's a lot of sticking points, but one thing I had noticed is that there's very little representation of causes that I particularly care about within the Lego community. I'd like to do something toward raising awareness of those issues and perhaps raising money for charity, doing things like that. I'd also very much like to collaborate with people who have very similar values. Ultimately, I don't want this just to be about me. This isn't just about SilentMode. I want to bring other people along on the journey, whether it's other Lego enthusiasts, other people interested in doing stuff with Lego, people who are aligned in terms of some of the issues that I'm passionate about. I want to work with other people. I want to do collaborations, etc. But those people have to want to work with me. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens. In closing, I just want to say that there's no hate involved. I don't hate anybody. There are people I don't like. There are people I don't respect. And I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people who don't respect me or like me either. But there's no hate. But I'm okay. I'm doing fine. It's been a challenging year. It's been an interesting year. But I'm still here. I'm still doing my thing. And anybody who has a problem with me being involved with Lego, or even me existing, is going to have to do something about it, because I'm not going anywhere. Anyhow, for those who are in my corner, those who are supporting me, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I encourage you all to do your thing.